Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness, down the river of tranquility, to fill the lake of life with love.
Good evening, our fellow lovers out there. I am Jazz. That is Lubby, or better known to me as the Lubbinator. And if you are in need of some honest and helpful guidance on your love life, you do not want to miss this episode of Late Night Love, the podcast that explores your real life love relationship issues. In this episode, we will answer some of the most popular and fascinating questions that people have about dating, romance, and intimacy. And Lubby went diving in through Reddit. I went diving in through Quora. And between the two of us, we've got some interesting discussions here tonight. Even though I only threw in a few, but yeah.
So join us as we go down this excursion on Reddit.
Yes, and you can,
in Quora,
yeah, you can always come and find this and other episodes at latenightLove.us. Please do all the like, subscribe, share, or whatnot for us, as it is greatly appreciated. And if you want your question answered on that, just send it to us at love@latenightLove.us, and we'll find a spot in there for you. Okay, so what do we got going on tonight, my lovey?
Well, we can just jump right in with relationships.
All right, we're just gonna jump in tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Now, this first one is one of yours.
Uh-huh.
My boyfriend of 2 years broke up with me because I tried to manage my depression on my own, but it only got worse and too much for him to handle. Now I'm on antidepressants and looking for therapy. I want to get us back together. What should I do?
Nothing. I know you want to get back together, but you're not in the position for that right now. You're just looking for some stability in the life that you don't have at the moment. What you actually need to do is create your own foundation. So when you are ready to go back into a relationship, you are in there from a place of strength, not a place of weakness. Right now, you're trying to find yourself, and it's unfair to you. Let's forget him for a minute. It's unfair to you during this stage of refinding yourself, figuring out how you're going to move through the rest of your life, what it is, because you're going to see life very differently the farther down this path of self-discovery and self-management. The farther path you get down there, you're going to see life differently. And so give yourself a chance to build yourself back up to a position where of some strength before you want to go back to a failed relationship, because you may see it differently in 6 months. Yeah. And if it's meant to be, then the 6 months will just be 6 months. So, give it 6 months or whatever, and then revisit. How's that one for work on yourself for a little while? Okay, what's next?
Okay. My husband sleeps in until 2 p.m. every day. He exhibits signs of depression, lack of energy or any passions, and I'm worried about him and that it's rubbing off on me. What should I do?
Okay, well, the first thing is if you're having worries about what your husband is experiencing, the thing is to talk to him about it. And not just say, hey, I'm worried about you, about, you're exhibiting signs of depression. And the first conversation may not go well. But if he's like most men, he'll come back to you. Give him time to process it. Give him time to, to accept that someone else knows what he's experiencing, and he'll find his way back to you. And you can have a discussion. The second or third discussion become the productive ones. And one, if you're experiencing your own bout of depression, which is entirely reasonable, be very careful not to blame that it's a response to his. It's a response to the conditions of your life, right? Whatever those conditions may be. Don't start putting blame on another person. It's just not a good place to go. Life's like that sometimes, and you just have to find help dealing with it if you have to, but don't place blame because it's not get anybody anywhere in this situation. So, this is where the rubber meets the roads in relationships.
Yeah.
And the question is, there comes a point where you do have to expect movement. Maybe it doesn't have to be fast, but he does have to start working on himself. That's not unreasonable, right? But it's unreasonable to expect that of him without you having a discussion. So have a couple discussions, and I think that's just tell him you're worried about him. Tell him you love him and you're worried about him. Yeah, you don't need to tell Reddit or the internet or Quora. Tell him you've got it. And if you're worried about yourself, deal with that. But don't dump that on him now, because then he's going to feel guilty, and you don't want to try and put guilt onto him. He's dealing with enough guilt, I'm sure. Okay, what's next?
Depressed girlfriend, 33 female, wants me, 30 female, to have sex with her while she cries. Okay, now this woman is depressed. She cries a lot. She's working on herself, but she's not. She hasn't made any progress right now.
Well, the fact that you're trying to work on yourself is progress. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
The effort is progress.
Yes.
So I want to make sure anybody who's listening to understand.
Sorry,
that.
I
get what you phrase it the way they did. It's acceptable. It's just I want our listeners to understand that the way to rephrase that is effort is progress.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But now this girl, she wants to feel something other than depression.
I get it.
Anything. Feel anything but this abyss, you know? And so she's like, forget about me crying. Just go ahead. Just keep going.
That's a tough ask, because it was someone you care about. That's a very, if it was a kink or a fetish, it'd actually be easier.
It would be.
Because, right. Whatever. But this is a real thing. You kind of want to say, try to take one for the team, but if you can't do it, you have to have that discussion. But again, the effort may be what's important here. The fact that she knows you're willing to go an extra mile for her, and maybe you can't pull it off. Maybe it's a bridge too far, but it's not a bridge but it's a bridge too far out of love, because it's hard to, when unless they're tears of joy, which they could turn into.
Yes, they could.
And so if you want to think of it that way, they could turn into tears of joy. My guess is this poor woman needs some therapy. There is some disconnect there that she's trying to work through, and she probably needs more help than her girlfriend.
Yeah.
But as she's trying, maybe if she's got a therapist, maybe have her ask the therapist what she thinks, just because you don't want to cause any harm. But there is a chance that those tears could turn into tears of joy, and even if temporary, temporary relief can actually mean a lot when you're dealing with long-term pain. A couple hours, an hour of no pain, even emotional pain, can help the next 23 go a little easier. So I don't have a great answer for this one, other than just keep trying and keep moving forward, because effort is progress.
It is.
All right, and that one makes me sad. Okay, what's next?
Okay. Girlfriend, 23 female, said I, 25 male, was beyond caring by not walking her to a restaurant. Okay, it was at night, and it was like a 30-minute walk.
Okay, why was she walking to a restaurant at night, 30 minutes away?
She was going to meet friends.
Okay.
For dinner.
And the friends couldn't come by and pick her up?
Apparently not.
Because it's not just a 30-minute walk. It's a 30-minute walk back. She could go out to dinner. Couldn't she order an Uber? I mean, it's a big ask. It's not just 30 minutes. This is 30 minutes back. And then what happens at the end of the night? How is she going to get home? Was he going to have to go back? He's essentially going to have to spend a night out at dinner, was what she was really asking without actually asking that.
And he had plans.
Right.
He had things he wanted to do.
Yeah. Now, my solution to this was I would have paid for your Uber, is what I would have freaking done. Anything, pass the offer to pay for Uber. It's on you. You know, right? I've offered to do my part. I've got other plans to do. I'm not taking an hour, at least an hour, right, to walk there and back. Now, if he's got a car, I'll drop you off unless I'm supposed to be at half across town at that same time. And then I'm paying for your Uber, you know, unless her or her friends have money to pay for an Uber. I mean, they're going to a restaurant. I'm assuming she has the 10, $15 to pay for an Uber. It's not that far. Prices have gone up since I was driving for Uber, but it still couldn't cost more than $20. So I don't know. I think she's being a little overreaction. I can understand the emotional reaction, but it's one of those things. It's once you sit on it, yeah, there is plenty other things for you to show yourself as a strong, independent woman and get yourself to the restaurant without having to walk in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what, you know, your friends should have been helping you. It's not his responsibility at that point. You're not husband and wife. He's not responsible to make sure you get everywhere. You know, some of us do it because we do, but you know, you also wouldn't ask me if I had other plans. So there's, you know, there's that. Okay, what's next?
Okay. Am I okay? Am I crazy for leaving my boy? Female 26, crazy for leaving my boyfriend, male 29, of 7 years because he won't marry me.
Are you crazy? No, if you both want two vastly different things at life right now, you're looking for a long-term committed relationship and want to build a family, and it's not what he's looking for, then no, the right thing is to move on with your lives and search for something that you want. Now, are you guys arguing over the piece of paper? You know, is that the argument? It's not my guess. My guess is they're actually, he doesn't want a family and she does. That's the fundamental disagreement. And in that case, no, it's the right thing to do for both of you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because neither one of you are going to be happy long term if you have that big of a disagreement on your long-term life goals. Right? That's a chasm that can't be crossed.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, if he doesn't want to get the paper, but you know, at 7 years, if you've been living together, it's already common law marriage. You're already married. So if you're already acting married and essentially just married, but everything, but you know, your paperwork filed with the government, lots of people don't do that now. You know, are emotionally married and all that, are committed, but don't bother with the government paperwork because it's stupid. That's just becoming a growing thing.
Yeah.
And that's about the age range where that is. So you may just have two cultural differences where what the version of marriage is. She wants the official big wedding, you know, official marriage license and all that. And he only wants the relationship part of it. And that could very well be a chasm too far as well.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that being a chasm too far. So no, you're not crazy. And in fact, it's a rational thing to do if your differences are that wide. Okay, what's next?
Okay, my 30 male wife, 28 female, said she wants her mother with her when she gives birth, not me.
Consider yourself lucky if you ask me, but
Well, he wants to be there for the birth of his child.
I get it.
Why can't they both be there?
Who knows? It's probably a cultural thing, a family history tradition where the mother's there and they want their mother there. I can completely understand why someone would want their mother there, right?
I wished I had my mother there. She was a nurse too.
You know, and frankly, I'm of the generation that straddled the line, right? Before people became before me, didn't go into the rooms. It wasn't really done all that often. The men weren't part of the delivery. And the people who come after me. And almost all of them go into the, so I'm of that generation where we kind of got to pick and choose. Of course I didn't, because the spouse wanted me there, so I was of course there. But I would have preferred not to have. I would have preferred to have been in the waiting room or something. Just, yeah, you get the wrong angle, and just there's things you don't want to see and hear, you know. Just saying.
It's all beautiful.
I did it. No, there's nothing beautiful about it. It's not a magical experience. It's just a thing that we human beings have to
When they
go through.
lay that baby in your
Oh my
arms,
God,
I had a full body rush
I'm just
every time.
now. Here's the thing: we can all be different. It's perfectly acceptable for him to want to be there, and the way you deal with it is you talk to her about it and tell her that you're hurt. You want to be there. Experience. You understand that you want your mother to be there, and if there is only one, if there's some hospital policy, I know COVID policies, they're kind of, sometimes they're kind of tight. They may only allow one person in there, and in that case, you defer to her wishes.
And I have to, dude.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
it's one of those things where you defer to her wishes. But if you can pull off two, or you guys can tag team, come in and out, there's a solution here that generally you guys can solve.
Yeah.
But you solve it with kindness and compassion. That's how you deal with it. Okay.
Okay. My 27 female husband, 35 male, feels insecure about me going out with my single friends when he's away for work for months on end. He wasn't this way before we got married. Should we call it quits?
Probably not. He just needs to adjust. He's feeling insecure. At least he's talking about it. And the question is, what's he doing about feeling insecure? Is he just telling you he's feeling insecure? Is he making demands that you not go out, or is he just telling you he's feeling insecure? And part of his way of dealing with his insecurity is to talk to you about it. The exact thing you actually want him to do when he's feeling insecure, because that's how you work through things. So it really kind of depends on the circumstances, how it's manifesting. Is he just telling you that it's feeling insecure, that he's dealing with this, and that he's sharing his inner feelings with you, and you should be very careful how you deal with those? Or is he being a jerk and about it? There's two actually different things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it may come out kind of crass because maybe he's not men, especially when they're first dealing with emotions, can be, so I say, a little blunter than women like or used to. Mm-hmm. Until he gets used to it, until it's a skill, learning to talk to women about these kinds of things. It's a skill. It's not easy. You may not be good at it. So
you're very good at it.
Because I failed a lot. So I learned the hard way. You know this better than anybody. Okay, so what's next?
Okay, my husband, 28 male, and I, 29 female. Marriage is being ruined by his sleep apnea. When is an ultimatum okay? I mean, literally, he stops breathing at night. It's awful.
Yeah, well, okay.
And he's not doing anything about it.
Well, because he doesn't want to. You can't force him to do about it, and making an ultimatum about somebody like that. I mean, I suppose you can do what other snorers do, is sleeping in separate rooms is becoming a thing now because of things like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's sleep apnea. The chances of sleep apnea at 28 actually having an issue with him anytime soon is minor. It's mostly disturbing her sleep, would be my guess.
So it's not healthy for him.
Oh no, but what are you gonna do? What kind of ultimatum are you gonna give him? And some people can't sleep with those things on, right? So it's like forcing someone to go through medical procedures. You can't do that either. So it's a tough one. Maybe hopefully you guys can find a third way. There's other options than nuking the relationship. Hopefully you've got a second bedroom and sleep in separate rooms if it comes to it. And see what happens. But it seems a silly thing to me to be ending a relationship over. Okay, what's next?
Okay, my 33 male ex, 32 female, is apparently dating a monster, 32 male. Do I have an obligation to tell her? He found out from one of the quote unquote monsters' exes.
No, if you're gonna do anything, you put those two in contact.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of as far as your obligation goes. Or do you tell her friends or somebody who can, right? It's one of those where you still have to kind of stay at least 1 degree away. But the best thing on that one to do is to try and put the X with the two X's together.
If you can.
If you can. And if not, then you put that information into hands of her best friend or somebody who can, sister or somebody who can relay the information. Okay. This be the way to deal with it. All right.
Okay. My girlfriend goes to college parties and leaves me with her small children. What can I do? Female 35, male 45.
Oh, she's going through her midlife crisis. Women go through it earlier. Women go through it in the mid-30s. I don't know why that is. Well, the same thing men go through in their 40s and early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Women go through in their 30s, mid to late 30s. Like they all want to be young again. They want to be their 20-year-old self again. I don't know. Maybe that's because women, mature faster, so they get through this.
They get to it faster.
They get to it faster. Maybe it's the last gasp of the hormones thing. Last dump of hormones in the mid to late 30s. Who knows? But it's a midlife crisis. Or she's insanely unhappy in her marriage and feeling trapped by the children, and it's just a way to.
She needs some counseling. Yeah.
Or she needs some, help. Maybe it's time for you to, have a discussion about the roles of your relationship, who does what and whatnot.
Yes.
But it's your girlfriend, not a spouse. So it's not kind of his responsibility. But unless they're like living together.
I know. Sounds like they are.
Kind of does sound like they would be. But it's the college parties thing. Why is she a 35-year-old woman wanting to go to a college party and go? That's the wanting to feel young thing again.
It is. Definitely.
That's the wanting to feel young thing again. Maybe she's feeling in a rut, trapped by old age. She's got yeah. So, maybe a discussion about how happy your relationship is. Who knows? I don't. Or it could just be a simple thing as the good old fashioned middle-age crisis, and she'll get through it in a year. Yeah, who knows? Okay, there's not a good answer to that one. No. Okay.
Now we're gonna move into parenting.
Woohoo!
Is it weird that my high school student daughter's boyfriend of 3 months wants to go to her OBGYN appointment with her? It's her first annual checkup.
Well, it's not as weird as we think it is for this particular generation coming up. What are these, 17, 16, 17, 18?
Yeah.
It's not as weird. They just like to, when they go to their appointment, he means he's going to sit in the waiting room. Let's be honest. He's not going into the actual.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's essentially taking it. It's not all that weird. It's a little weird, but it's less weird for this generation than it would be for, say, mine. they're more open about these kinds of things than we were, and that's a good thing. So
It is.
yeah, so yeah. Is it a little weird? Yeah,
A little bit, but
Not-
not too concerning. No,
no, not for this generation. They're more
No,
open about these
they
things
are.
than the rest of us are. So it's in the realm of normalcy, but it's yeah, it's all right. Okay, what's next?
Okay, does anyone struggle with the intensity of some of these sports parents?
Yes, that's been going on since I was a kid. So there's nothing new there. It's just the way it is. It was the same problem, generation things. So, all right.
Okay, what do you do when you get complaints from school? Okay, her little guy he's just not real happy with school, and he's kind of grumpy when he's there, and he doesn't give long answers, and
Do you
and
find him
sometimes he'll just his answer is to roll his eyes.
means the school environment doesn't suit him. That's what that means. Now, hopefully, you have the resources to find a different environment that suits him. Another thing to do if he's in a public school and you're kind of stuck, you don't have the resources to find a different education. You can actually ask for, have him tested for some form of learning disability. They look for people. They'll find a reason to put him on that, which means then you get an IEP, which means then you get an individual lesson plan. And I forget what it. Yeah. You get an individual lesson plan, and then it's better than nothing. Yeah. But what he needs is a school that's different than what he's getting.
Montessori or something.
Maybe he's in a Montessori and it's the wrong type of school. It doesn't really matter. The school environment that he's in doesn't suit him. Maybe he needs something that's more active for him. Who knows? Maybe he needs something where he's outside more often. There's all kinds of schools for that. They're growing. So hopefully you can find hopefully they have the resources to find the kind of school that suits him. If not, try to, twist the arms of the school bureaucracy to your favor. Use them instead of it's your only choice. Sadly. Unless you happen to live in a place where you got school choice, and then you can go choose your own school. All right, what's next?
Okay, in-laws overstepping boundaries and undermining parental decisions. How to cope.
Hi, welcome to the world of parenting since the beginning of the dawn of time. Yes.
Really?
It's just kind of what happens, in a lot of families. How to... Well, it depends on the parental decisions. Are they giving them candy when you told them no candy? You're just going to have to deal with that. Are they buying them a kind of toy or something that you wouldn't buy them? You're going to have to deal with that. Are they something more fundamental, or then it's a different question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, pick and choose your battles. Let grandma. It's okay to be the bad cop sometimes. Let grandma and grandpa be the good cops. They get to have the fun. Sure, it's annoying at times, but guess what? It's not annoying for the children. So it really kind of depends what we're talking about on boundaries. If you've got a strict diet and they get a little snack over there, let them enjoy it. It's called life. Lighten up. Now, if they're, something more fundamental, something more dangerous or something like that, then it's a different issue. But my guess is this is somebody who's a little over helicoptery, and they're giving them snacks at their house. Yeah, they get snacks at grandma's. Yeah, that's just going to happen. They're going to get a toy that you wouldn't have bought them. Yeah, that's going to happen. It just is. So it kind of depends. Okay. All right, what's next?
Okay. Is it safe to have cats around a newborn?
Well, generically, yes. But you probably do want to be careful, especially if you know your cat. Some cats are more curious and clumsy or whatnot than others. Yeah, so, but generically speaking, yes, happens all the time.
Well, kitties love newborns.
Well, that's part of the problem is cats don't really understand.
No, but I've always known kitties to be very gentle around newborns.
Well, cats have all kinds of stuff, right? They come with all kinds of things.
And that whole old wives' tale that a cat will sit on a baby's chest to smell the milk on their breath and smother the baby is just hogwash.
No, that's not what you worry about. It's actually cats playing their litter. Well, not playing the litter box. Use their litter box, and then they can, drag it. That's actually where the danger comes from. The danger isn't actually from the cat itself. It's kind of from accidental contamination. But quite frankly, you probably have larger issues to worry about. So no, it's probably fine. But it's perfectly reasonable to think of, be a little more cleanly, to maybe just especially when they're newborns, do an effort to keep them separate. It's not unreasonable. I don't think I've ever bothered to do it, but it's not an unreasonable thing to want to keep the cat out of the baby's room or something like that. It's not hugely unreasonable. Okay.
How to manage frenetic play between two young siblings, 8 and 6, that often ends poorly. So these kids, they just they won't sit down and say play a card game.
No. Yeah. Wait, you realize how many boys I've raised, right? And my daughter is the youngest, so she's essentially a boy. So you don't. You just let them go, and you can tell when it gets to a stage where, all right, something's going to happen if I don't tell them to go knock it off and tone it down for a while. So you go in there and they kind of reset, and it just goes back for a while. That's all you do. You just reset it. You kind of learn to know the sounds of, all right, it's getting close to disaster. So you go. So you go in there, you reset the thing, whatever. I used to use pennies, but that's a whole nother. Yeah, just send a signal that they're getting too rambunctious and they need to turn it down. And it's kind of how you do, because you're not. They clearly have energy. They have to burn it. What are you going to ask them? You're going to ask them kids with frenetic energy to sit down and play a card game. Who's being dumb? Seriously. You're asking them for something clearly they can't do. So stop asking them to do something they can't do. If you must, find something to burn the energy, but I often just let them play. That's how they learn. And yeah, on occasion it ends poorly. You know what that's called? It's called a lesson. And stupidity should hurt sometimes. They'd be all right. I get mothers, it's hard for mothers. It's a lot easier for whatever reason, for however nature, whatever it is, a cruel twist of nature. It's far easier for men to say this and to follow through on it than it is for women, right? It just is. Women go, oh, but he's going to hurt himself. Yeah, and he'll learn a lesson from that, right? There's two different ways of approaching that kind of thing. Yeah, it'll hurt. Then he won't do it again. Yeah, but you should stop him. Then he won't learn his lesson. But you'll tell him, but he won't learn. So that's how you deal with that. My suggestion. Do you have a different one?
No.
Especially if they're boys. Let them.
If they're boys, just create a space for them.
Yeah, you create a safe place where there's less of your stuff to break. Frankly. Yeah. Maybe that has soft carpet when you land on it hard. Yeah. And don't get beanbag pillows. Get different pillows because it just makes a mess. All right. So what's next?
Should I let my kids know their mom is sick? She has cirrhosis of the liver.
Well, as someone who has cirrhosis of the liver, at some point you're going to have to tell them. right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially depends how bad it is. At some point you're going to have to tell them. The question is, you have to know exactly what it means before you can tell them, right? I don't know how bad this is. Is it bad enough where they're talking about transplants?
Yeah.
You're going to have no choice. You have to tell them. The question is how. What the method you use is going to be age appropriate. And my thing was to start with the oldest and work your way down. You just get better at it because you can be, if you have more than one, right? I mean, these said kids, you start with the oldest because they're the ones who you can be closest to an adult conversation with. So by the time you're done with that, you can actually, you'll have worked through it some and you can figure out how to do it a little easier for the younger ones. But you can't hide this, and nor should you. You are going to have to try to make this as normal as life as possible for them. Right? You're going to have to treat it as normal. Sadly, there's just no other way through it. So my heart goes out to you. But yes, you're going to have to tell them. Start with the oldest and work your way down. Yeah. Okay.
How to keep kids from growing up too fast?
You can't. And nor do you actually want to. Kids grow up as fast as they need. If the environment that they live in needs to, enables them to grow up slow, they will grow up slow. If the environment they live in requires them to grow up fast, they will grow up fast. But first, you're going to have to define what growing up means. And what parts of that process are good for what age? Is a 10-year-old with a paper route good or a bad thing? In the modern day, it's not a good thing, right? For whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Not a value judgment for me. So what do you do with a 10, 12-year-old or whatever it is who has that kind of desire for responsibility? Do you feed it or do you squash it? Yeah. So you're going to have to define what growing up too fast is. Create the environment so they can grow up as fast as they need to. Is my suggestion.
Yes.
If you live in a ghetto type area, kind of my neighborhood, your kids are going to have to grow up faster in some ways than others. It just is.
Yeah.
That's neither good nor bad. It's just the way life is. So, it's just life like that sometimes. God, that's twice I've said that tonight. Okay, what's next?
We have work questions.
All righty.
My HR manager asked me to resign. When I refused, she handed me a termination letter, severance check, and relieving letter.
Uh-huh.
Clearly not all is right. What can I do?
Find a different job. You've been fired. What do you want to do? Why do you want to work for somebody that's fired you? Right? They asked you to resign because clearly something happened. Right? And when you said no, they fired you. It happens. Dude, it's okay. It happens all the time. You move on. That's it. There's nothing to do.
I know.
I'm not exactly sure what a relieving letter is.
What is a relieving?
It depends on.
Is that like a letter of reference?
I don't think so. That would just say a letter of reference. I don't know. I'd have to look up. And what I didn't know is it was an engineering thing. So maybe it was an engineering guy was an engineer. So maybe it's some kind of relieving of responsibilities on projects. Would be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. So your choice is to go get another job. Right? Maybe try to learn from what happened, what you did wrong, and or be thankful you're out of a toxic work environment. One of the
One
two.
of the two, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Coworker can't be trusted. Do I confront them or distance myself?
It's not worth your time. Just go on about your business.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah, that one's an easy one.
How to deal with unpaid overtime?
You demand your pay and you go find another job. And if it's a lot of unpaid overtime, depending upon the state and jurisdiction, you either file a lawsuit or file a claim with the government and get it paid back. Those are actually easy ones. But if they won't give you your pay and you are actually entitled to it, there are avenues of recourse. But if you work for a company that won't pay you properly, the first thing to do is to find one that will. Okay. What's next?
It's 2024. Why don't we have a 4-day work week yet?
Well, when I was working on an assembly line back in the early 1990s, we wanted to go to a 4-day work week. Us in the assembly line, the management was all for it. It was okay with them. It worked for their production schedules. It was all fine. It was the government that wouldn't let us do it. Laws and regulations and all kinds of things. We wanted to go to 410s. Right? Still 40 hours. We get just as much work done, probably more, and we all get 3-day weekends. We all figured it was great. Government wouldn't let us do it. So when you ask why we don't have these things, but also you got to understand, we create these one size fits all solutions. 4-day work weeks, which creates what? You can't even do 2 shifts. That's where it came from. All right. He did a bunch of research and then found that after 9 hours of work, production drops off. Right. And he did the math and he needed 2 shifts a day plus 2 4-hour shifts for transitions, to refill the line and all that kind of stuff. So it fit his production schedule. That's why we have 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. But it also kind of works. It just kind of does from a production schedule. I mean, there's a reason the United States is the most productive economy per capita per person in the world. It just is. And it's not even close. Each worker produces more value than any other worker on the planet. There's a reason for that. So some industries can go to 4-day work weeks better. There's none of these things. There's not a panacea. Stop looking for silver bullets in your life. If you really want to have control over your work week, you're going to have to take control over your work week. Become an entrepreneur, become a freelancer, own your own business, whatever it is. You're going to have to become good at your job so you can demand your own 4-day work week. That's that's the solution to there. It's not waiting around for society to grant you this benefit that that you can actually go out and earn right now. Okay, what do we want?
Why do you have managers who could say so much but communicate so little?
This one's actually very easy, right? Because what happens, managers come from, right, they used to do the things that they get promoted up, right? So you're good at your job. You get hired to do a job. You're good at it, so you get promoted. Then you're good at it again, so they're promoted to a manager role. And now your job is no longer the job you used to do. Your job is to manage the people who do the job you used to do. And guess what? They don't teach you how to do that. You're just kind of expected to do it. They give you more training to do the job you used to do than you do to manage the people. And so it's because they don't know. So they fill that space. Instead of saying, I don't know, they just fill it with words. The most powerful thing is to do when you're in management is to ask the people you work for help, who work for you, for help. They know what they need. They'll help you. Empower them. This is just not trained. That's all that is. They're not trained. and they're not trained properly. It's a skill. Anybody can do it. Not everybody wants to, though. All right, what's next?
Okay. Is my manager allowed to ask me to come in with only same day notice?
Well, it depends on your state and whatnot, but ask, sure.
Well, of course I'll ask.
You can always ask. You can tell them to pound sand. You can not answer the phone. But yeah, he can ask. Just because he asked doesn't mean you have to say yes. You have the power.
Yes.
All right, what's next?
I have a phone interview tomorrow. What should I expect? How do I ace it?
Get good sleep. That's my suggestion. Best thing to do to prepare for any interview is to get good sleep. One, do some basic research about the company, blah blah blah, right? Just so you know what they do, what the company does, what their mission statement is, that kind of thing. Look around, see if you can find something about their culture, because that's the question you want to ask. And you said, do you have any questions? Ask culture questions. And really just relax and be yourself. What I do to ace interviews is I think of it as I'm interviewing them as much as they are interviewing me. I'm as valuable. I'm a valuable commodity. They need me. Right? They have to woo me. I'm not there to kiss their behind. I'm there to be wooed. But you go in there with value, feeling yourself valued, feeling that you're confident.
Yes.
Yeah. It's attractive. Okay. So what's next?
How to maintain work-life balance when work does not have a fixed timetable?
That's interesting. It depends on how predictable that not fixed timetable is. Because as someone who kind of has to deal with that sometimes, right? Who there's occasions where I have to, I got to go down to the office, right? Because something is broken. Something's not working.
Yep.
Something happened down there. I've got to go down there and kick the transmitter or something, right? Who knows? And so it happens. Now, so it really kind of depends how unfixed that timetable is. Back in the day, I had to work 3 jobs where you're balancing 3 different schedules, and as you're a janitor and whatnot, it's 3 varying schedules. And for a month, there was no work-life. I mean, for a year, there was no work-life balance. It just wasn't. It was you were working, you were sleeping, you were eating, and when you weren't doing those, you were taking care of your children. And that's how life is sometimes. But what you do is you get through those times by making yourself valuable so you don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. It's just there's sometimes in life where you just have to deal with it. The work-life balance is later. That's the answer. It's later. Right? It depends on the circumstances. Sometimes there's no time for balance. You have to knuckle down, make yourself valuable so you can have balance later.
Yeah.
And that's an answer people don't like to hear. But later can be 6 months, can be a year. Hopefully it's not 5. So it's usually somewhere between 6 months and 5 years. How's that? It's probably longer than 6 months, probably shorter than 5 years. If it's longer than 5 years, you went down a wrong road somewhere. Well, maybe not, because it took me a little while. So I'm not even going to say that. Sometimes it can take a while.
Yeah.
All right, and you messed that one if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Is not having a working car a legit reason for missing team lunch?
Well, have you ever tried to take the bus to somewhere where the bus doesn't go? You want them to spend money on an Uber? Anybody you offer to go pick them up?
I know, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. Pound sand. That's what I'd tell you. So there. Okay.
Why won't anyone hire me because I'm a transgender?
Maybe they're not hiring you because you're a transgender. Maybe you're using that as an excuse for having poor interview skills. And instead of looking for reasons people aren't hiring you, talk about the reasons that people should hire you. And it has nothing to do with you being transgender or not. You know, if you want someone to hire you, make yourself valuable. Put your best foot forward, and that has nothing to do with your sexuality or your gender or your perceived gender or any of that. It's what can you bring to the table? You can bring creativity, you can bring honesty, you can bring integrity, you can bring hard work, you can bring whatever skills you learned in school. Those are the things that they want to know. So those are the things when you go and have an interview or you focus on. Your personality will speak for itself. Right? You don't need to focus on that. Focus on the other aspects of your life. So what I'm guessing is they're fairly young and it's so easy in today's world to get caught up in your gender identity that you forget what your employer wants is the rest of you. They don't care about your gender identity. So don't bring it into your, be who you are. Right?
Yes.
But that's not what they want to hear about. They want to hear about the rest of you. They want to hear about what you're bringing to the work table every day. So focus on that.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. Okay.
Okay, now we have a section called life.
Yeah, we've only got like 8 minutes left. I'm gonna have to talk less. All right.
I'm going through a breakup and depression. I'm sad and I just want to be left alone. I'm pretty toxic now. I don't want to be toxic around anyone, but my friends are asking me out to dinner on my birthday. How do I explain and not make them feel bad for me?
Have you ever thought that you're going through a breakup and depression? You're feeling pretty alone and toxic right now, and that's why your friends are wanting to get you out right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. They know you're pretty toxic right now. They know you don't even like yourself right now. And guess what? They want to be around you anyway.
They really do.
They really do. And so my suggestion for this one is if you can't do it for yourself, do it for them. Do it for them. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for your friends. They want to do something for you. So make them happy.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised. Even someone who doesn't do my birthday. I don't do birthdays. I don't like these kind of things. If my friends wanted to, and I was going through a tough time and I'd do it. Because I wouldn't do it for me. I wouldn't. Inside I'd be grumbling and griping the whole time, but I do it because, well, they want to do something for me, and so I can honor that. And guess what? At the end of the day, you'll feel better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you'll have people who care about you expressing the fact that they care about you. And how can that not make you feel a little better when you're feeling toxic and crappy about yourself? Okay. So that's my suggestion. All right. What do we have?
How do I make my friend understand I'm not glass that will shatter if he says one wrong thing? I told a friend my trauma with SA. Now he acts like anything can hurt me. If you've experienced this, how do you get them to treat you normal again?
Okay, for a guy, this is the easiest thing in the world to do. You tell him exactly what you just told us.
Yeah.
And you do it as bluntly as possible. Look, I appreciate it that you want to be careful, but please don't. It makes it harder for me. And you're helping me by just treating me like normal, right? I'm okay. I've gone through it. I'm working on my stuff. I'm not fragile anymore. But I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're going to help me get through it, finish my journey by treating me like normal. The minute he thinks he's helping you he's going to treat you like normal. Now, give him some time to adjust. It might take him a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he'll get better and relatively quickly.
Yeah.
You just have to be blunt. We need bluntness. When you're dealing with things like this, we need bluntness. You can't hint. You can't, it's just, it's just, yeah, we need the Band-Aid pain for it to register. So just rip it off. Okay, so what is it? What we got next?
I'm seeing a psychiatrist, but I feel like he focuses on medicines more than talking, and I don't really like that. Is that normal? Or should I say to him, go to a psychologist? and him.
Well, you find someone, whether it's a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor. You may need a psychiatrist to deal with your medicines, and then just a counselor to deal with your talk therapy. That may be actually a better way to deal with it.
Yeah.
And cheaper as well,
Yes.
because you can go to a counselor 3 times for the cost of one trip to a psychiatrist.
Definitely.
So go to see your psychiatrist for your meds. Go to a counselor or someone for your talk therapy, and then as you get better at your talk therapy, you can adjust your medication and become less dependent on it. And that's the long-term goal. So take charge of it. Your psychiatrist deals with the medical part of you, that part, and you find a counselor to deal with the other one. That would be my suggestion. Now, it's not out the realm of possibility that you might want a different psychiatrist. Not all psychiatrists match, as you well know. So changing psychiatrists is perfectly normal, but psychiatrists generally don't have time to do a lot of talk therapy.
Yeah.
It's not their role.
No.
So.
That's not what they do.
Okay.
What do you do to maintain your mental health? Do you have a safe place to unwind when you are overwhelmed?
Well, this is a unique question for everybody, right? This is a question that's unique for everybody, what they do.
It really is. For me, it's meditation. If I get overwhelmed, I take 3 deep breaths in and out slowly, and that'll calm things down. But that's after putting in years of practice on meditation, a little bit every day.
Yeah. Well, I've learned too that in the moment, I'm actually relatively good about parking it and dealing with it later, as men do. I just actually deal with it later. A lot of men make the mistake of I'm going to park it and deal with it later, and then never really deal with stuff later. It's not that they don't intend to; they just don't. They get caught up in other things and just never. So for me, it's just being aware enough to actually deal with my emotions and whatnot later. And sometimes it's get a couple of sleep. Realize I haven't been sleeping well, so I need to catch a few days of sleep. Others, things like I've let. For me, it's just, I don't know. I haven't been overwhelmed like that in a long time. I've been through so much in the last that I just don't get overwhelmed all that often anymore. It's just, I'm dead. So I'll live. The last time I actually think I got anywhere near overwhelmed was dealing with airports. It's not even flying that mind, it's just airports. That's the closest thing. And then I just have to deal with it. Just kind of forcing my way through it. It's not a great answer. So I don't have a great answer on that one. But, finding your way to unwind is important. I clearly do. I come and I isolate. If I really wanted to think about it, I just don't consciously think about it. When I need to isolate and everything gets quiet, I sit in a quiet room. Don't do very much. Don't think about very much. So, I suppose you could actually technically call it meditation, but I wouldn't. It's not that formal, but I get into a similar state. Okay.
Why am I so anxious about meeting my therapist in person next month after 6 months on Zoom? We have a good therapeutic relationship, but I'm so nervous.
That's perfectly natural.
It really is.
Now the why, I can't answer the why because your why is going to be different. But we do want to let you know that is perfectly normal. You've had an intimate relationship, right? Your therapist, it's an intimate relationship. It's emotionally intimate.
It is.
And so you've had this 6-month intimate relationship in a certain form. And now it's changing form. So it's going to be new and different. And how do you navigate that new and different? It's almost like going to therapy for the first time again. But maybe worse because now this stranger, who's not really a stranger, but is, right? You've never actually met them in person before. You never sat down and have a face-to-face conversation before, but yet you've also had face-to-face conversations and told them the most intimate parts of your life. How do you square that internally? Yeah, you're going to be anxious. So it's perfectly normal. How do you deal with it? By going in there, sitting down and talking about it. That's where you start that day. So it's not, that one's easy, quite frankly. That's where you start that day. It's a great way to start the thing. Jump right in. Get some work done that day. Yeah. That's mine. Sometimes it's the hardest part of therapy is at this point for me is why, what the hell am I going to talk? I don't got nothing on the top of my head. You know, there's something down there, but it's getting started. It's going to be hard. Yeah. I don't like taking notes. And so sometimes I had something last week, but I think I dealt with it. All right. So is there any one of the two of these you really wanted to cover before we go?
Yeah,
Okay.
just one.
Okay.
My girlfriend is quite proud of her hand jobs. How do I tell her they're quite awful?
Well, let me start with beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and so is what feels good. So what she's actually saying is the people who were previous to you liked those, and you don't. So the question is not to tell her they're quite awful. You tell her they don't work for you. Tell her what does.
Give a little more direction.
Yeah. You've gone off the rails with the quite awful. Quite frankly, they're never awful. They might not be enjoyable, but they're never awful. She's touching you, for God's sake.
She wants to touch your wee wee.
Yeah.
Come on. How bad is that?
At the very least, it's not awful. So, may not be pleasurable, but it's not awful. So change your thought process on how you want to approach that before you even come close to approaching it. Right.
Yeah. Think about that one.
Yeah, think about it, because quite frankly, you're probably not doing something that she quite particularly doesn't enjoy, but it's taking one for the team anyway, and you don't really want to know about it. So,
you don't really want to know about it.
You really don't want. Yeah. So leave it at that. And with that, we're going to leave this show at that. All right. For me and Lebby, we want to thank you for being with us tonight. As always, please remember you can find us at latenightLove.us. You can send us your letters to love@latenightLove.us, and we will get back with you on the air. And from me and Lebby, I want to thank you for joining us. Have a good week, and please remember to love everybody, and good night.
Good night.